Hello, welcome everybody. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are or whenever you're watching back our webinar. This is another one in our series of webinars, and again, really delighted to have some very expert guests with us, joined by the team from the Open University School of Languages and Applied Linguistics, which hopefully gives you a clue to what our webinar is going to be about today. The title's really very, very inspiring. Open up your future, the power of studying languages online. So what we're going to do, we're going to take you through two parts really. I'm Esther, I'm the head of the National Extension College, and I'll just talk through some slides regarding studying languages at what we call a level 2 and a level 3. So that's GCSE level and A level, and how you can study those in an online environment. And then I'm going to hand over to the team, which is a brilliant team with Lucy and her colleagues from the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics from the Open University. And they will walk through what studying a language is like at the Open University. So hopefully you'll get a real pathway through of how you can take your love of languages through from GCSE, A level, and on to degree level. So for now, we're going to say goodbye to our colleagues from the Open University, leaving me on my own, which is absolutely fine. And I'm going to take you through the slides. Lovely to see any comments in the chat. So thank you, John, for starting us off. If you have any questions, pop them in if they come into your mind. But it's likely we'll come to those at the dedicated Q&A session at the end. So if anything comes to you, take it, put it in the chat, that's fine, or just note it down, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So you either might be studying with either the Open University or the National Extension College, or you may be a prospective student of either of those organisations, which is great. We're going to look at language learning with us, progression in your language studies, and then studying languages at the Open University. So quite a simple programme, but hopefully we'll get into some of the detail of what studying a language is about. So who are we? The National Extension College, we were established in 1963. We always like to say we were a pilot for the Open University, and obviously we went our separate ways with the National Extension College, continuing at level 2 and level 3, and obviously the Open University moving into higher education and degree. We were actually founded by the same person, Sir Michael Young, with a real mission behind what we do, and again, what the Open University does, which is around ensuring everybody has access to education in a way that's flexible and works for them. And that education is mainly called distance learning, but often is now online. It's online learning at a time and place that works for you. So just to get you thinking about what we're going to be talking about, and the team from the Open University will pick up on some of these themes in their slides as well, but probably from a more degree aspect. So why study a language at GCSE or A level? Or why study a language at all? So I'll put three, these are sort of personal to me really. I've put 3 reasons. If you've got any other reasons, it'd be lovely to put them in the chat. And that's probably something we can pick up on the Q&A as well. Either if you're a parent who's got a language learner, or you're an adult coming back to learning a language, or a younger learner trying to ensure that you have a language within your toolkit. A really nice quote there from Nelson Mandela, and I love that aspect of speaking to somebody in their own language. And I think those who speak a second or third language know how powerful that can be. You've got that cultural bridge, needed more and more in the world at the moment, where we can feel very isolated from a cultural and understanding of the world. So a language, I love that phrase, language is the soul of a culture. So learning one brings you into that culture and makes you more of a global citizen. There's the real neuroscience piece that, again, is very interesting. Lots of research has been carried out into how language learning can actually impact positively your learning as a whole, your ability to learn, the elasticity that happens in your brain around being able to take on new knowledge, new skills, and then be able to recall, synthesize, and then use those in an applied way. And that happens really well if you've got a language in your toolkit, and learning a language can happen at any part in your life. You could be doing it following a traditional school offering, and perhaps they don't do the language that you're interested in, so you could take it on at that level. You can do a GCSE with a college like us if you're studying A-levels in a school. Maybe you just didn't quite feel ready to study a GCSE at that point, and you could study it with us. And then you could look at obviously moving into studying an A-level in language, and you can look at doing that alongside 3 A-levels. Often some schools now don't like you to do the 4, which is absolutely fine. But if you feel ready and prepared, you can then take a 4th A-level, again with an organisation like us or with your school. And we need a little bit more of this in the world. The last point, well-being and empathy. I think that aspect of opening your eyes to another culture through their language really helps somebody understand how to be empathetic to a culture and how to be empathetic and understanding of that culture's needs. So 3 points there. As I said, if you've got any others, do pop them in the chat. It'd be really nice to understand what your benefits you see of learning a language are. I've just talked about a little bit about the goals. So not everybody wants to learn a language to actually create a goal, which is like employment or further or higher education. We have a lot of learners, quite a lot of mature learners learning a language with us who are looking to just enhance their skills and their knowledge. And one of those aspects could be just following a GCSE or A-level structure. They get to study, obviously, set text. They get to study different aspects of literature and the culture of that language, that target language. And that could be something that's really, important to you in your life. But it could be that you're looking to move into a career or somewhere where a language or a second language or the ability to show that you can learn a language is something that's valued. And again, I know the team from the Open University are going to be looking at that sort of future aspect around goals. But learning a language at GCSE or A-level is quite good to put on your CV or your UCAS application, because it just demonstrates that openness and that ability to learn in a second language. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about how learning a language in an online learning environment works from a GCSE and A-level perspective. And then the team from the Open University will talk about from a further and higher education perspective. So the benefits of learning with distance learning is you learn at your own pace. So there's not a scheduled timetable. If you are working or you're in school or college or you have caring or contextual challenges, then you can study at a time and pace that works for you. All the learning material is there for you to access when you're ready. And it's independent learning. You're learning at your pace. And with languages, that can be really important. It's giving you time to go back, to practice, to reinforce what you've learned before feeling pushed on to the next stage. You can really embed the language that you've learned and the scaffolding of that language to move you forward onto the next section. And our course materials, you can adapt them if you've got accessibility issues. It's on an online environment, and we have built in lots of support for learners who might want to study in a slightly different way. We've found a fantastic group of tutors, and I know my colleague Segaline was sad that she couldn't be with us today because she is teaching, qualified teacher. She leads the team here at National Extension College, but also working with a school in her own right, and leads our language learning team. I've got a slide from her in a minute which really explains a little bit of the technicalities about how Segaline and her team deliver distance learning for a language. All our tutors are qualified teachers, so they've taught in the classroom, they understand the specifications and how to move you through from beginning to being able to sit the exam. And also, as a college, we do have pastoral support and SENCO it's there if you need it. And that's a really important part of online learning, being able to reach out to somebody when things aren't quite going how you hoped, or if life has changed, that often happens. So we have a really good support network in place for our students to access. And I know that's mirrored very similarly by the Open University, who will explore that aspect with you. So what do we deliver? We deliver IGCSE and A-level French and Spanish. As I noted, the courses are self-study. So that's a really important aspect of the course to really understand and take away. Hi, Delia. Thank you for joining. We do have, which is a really exciting part of courses, online forums. And these are a great opportunity to practice your language, to have a chat with people, to understand what sections people are working on, look and explore different material, news channels, journals, just sharing of lots of different things. John, thank you. Please pull me up on any acronyms, because I'm very bad at doing that. So Special Education Needs Coordinator. It's a title that's used a lot in secondary schools in England, and it's somebody who's there with an official role to support people who have additional needs or need different types of adaptation for their learning to be able to access the specification and the course. Good catch, thank you. We also have university progression support. So we have sessions like this to support students to understand how to progress to university, such as the Open University. And we also are a UCAS centre, so we can support students if they're looking to move forward with their languages. And we have lots of students study languages with us and use that learning to move on to university. Thanks, John. So how does it work from an online perspective? So we've got 5 aspects around, sort of 6 aspects around structured language support. So the courses are designed by subject matter experts, many of whom are examiners, so they understand the rigour of the specification and the assessment requirements, but also understand how to make the course engaging and motivating for you. You need a lot of resilience to study as an independent learner. So we build in motivational targets so that you are moving forward and feel that momentum with your learning. So you have the presentation of the language, structured practice, and then guided independent work, which is a model that's quite familiar to students who've studied a language a little bit in an education environment. We're quite unique, we feel, with online distance learning providers. We have a lot of formative assessment running through our courses. This is the best way. Lots of research has been taken place around what has the biggest impact on learners' success, and it is formative assessment with really positive feed-forward feedback. So lots of opportunities. Some of them are self-marking activities, and then we have assignments, both speaking, reading and listening, that you will then submit to your tutor, who will provide really expert feedback for you. There are masterclasses and there are speaking opportunities. Masterclasses are at set times, but speaking opportunities in practice for your speaking assignments are booked in with the tutor at a time convenient for you both. So you have that opportunity to practice your speaking. And as I said, collaborative forums, which are really great. And I know the team have put forward a lot of material that's more live material, things that are happening in the news in that country, things that you could draw on for your non-examined assessment, which is your project at A-level, or practice using sort of language in the world that's happening around you. So lots of resources are shared in a dynamic way by the team as well. And as I said, we are a exam venue. So this is very technical here, but for A-levels and GCSEs, there's the oral aspect, And then for the A level, there's also an independent research project that students have to take part in. We facilitate all of that work, so you can feel really secure and sure that the requirements for the final assessment are being followed through with your tutor and with the National Extension College. It can become a bit complex, deadlines, what you need to do at certain points, so we've got all that structure for you, so you meet all the components, as they're called, for the exam. Thank you. What is formative assessment? Thank you very much. So formative assessment and summative assessment, these two words that you might hear relatively often in education. Summative assessment takes place at the end of a topic and often is a high stakes type of assessment. It might go towards your final grade in the particular course that you're studying. That's summative assessment. Formative assessment is work to show you how you're progressing. So you should treat it really seriously. It might be an assignment you're writing. It doesn't go to your final grade, but it is something you will submit to your tutor to get some feedback, to work on, to develop, and then prepare you for the final summative assessment. Thanks, good question. Thanks, Delia. Yes, live assignments and assessments are really useful. So we do have that embedded through the course. So thank you very much for sharing that. Delia is one of our tutors. I've spotted you, Delia. So Delia, I think it's really nice if there's anything that comes up, just to pop something in the chat, that would be really lovely. And Delia teaches on our Spanish courses. So welcome, Delia. Thank you for joining. It's always nice to have a little bit about our students. That's what it's all about. So we've got some case studies, only French, I'm afraid, Delia. You have to encourage one of your Spanish students to give us a case study as well. And just shows the different sort of motivations, age range, and different life contexts that people come to us to study a language. And it's really important to show we're an open college. So from 13 upwards, we take students. So when you're ready to take a GCSE or A level, you can contact our course advice team and we will talk you through the best route for you. And my final slide will be nice pictures of France and Spain. If you make the decision, or you are already choosing to self-study and distance learning for languages, you will gain a lot of advantages around that flexibility, a personalised route, and a really cost-effective one as well. So you can just tailor your education to the way that you want to learn, and in a way that actually meets your life context and your life goals. So that's my part finished. Thanks for the reminder. We'll be holding a live Q&A at the end of the session. I'm delighted now to be joined by the team from the Open University School of Languages and Applied Linguistics. We're taking you on a journey. We've moved you from GCSE to A level, and now Lucy and her team are going to introduce themselves and then take you through what the Open University can offer from a language learning perspective. So I'm going to hand over to Lucy in the first place, and then Lucy, you can move through with your team. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Welcome, everybody. We'll begin, if you could just move over to our first slide, talking to you about the Open University, and we'll begin with our colleague, Maria.
Thank you, Lucy. So my name is Maria Sakova, and I'm a lecturer in French at the Open University, and I'll tell you a bit more about studying languages at the Open University. So first of all, studying languages in general at any level provides a wealth of benefits, like Esther has already talked about and mentioned lots of benefits. But I think importantly, you will develop what we call a linguistic mindset. And what's a linguistic mindset? It's basically valuable set of really important skills that you gain through studying languages. And there are many, but I'll just mention just those that immediately come to mind, like the academic advantages. You will develop critical thinking skills, analyzing complex information, for example. Obviously, you'll be developing excellent communication skills and ability to adapt, not only adapt your language, but adapt your all sorts of other things. Your position, for example, your thinking as well. There are also many social advantages like independence, resilience. You'll be better at tolerating uncertainty. You'll develop your cultural awareness and empathy, like Esther's mentioned. You will become an attentive listener as well as good communicator. And in general, it will help you to work more successfully with people from different cultures and adapt to new environments. And that, I think, is really important. You'll just become more open-minded. And finally, there are many, many cognitive advantages, obviously, because language learning supports your cognitive skills, such as memory, problem solving, analytical and communication skills, among the many other skills. If we could move to the next slide. So who are the Open University? As you probably know already, this is the largest university in the UK with over 200,000 students. And we are a university that specializes in distance learning, in supported distance learning. We have over 55 years experience in this field. And we offer more than 200 qualifications. So you are very likely to choose something if you have a look at all the interesting qualifications that we offer. And we are open to anyone with the drive and ambition to learn. I think it's important to say that there are no entry prerequisites. So it's if you decide to study with us, it's quite flexible. You just enroll in what you are interested in, and we are experts in flexible online study, like I said. To date, we have helped more than 2 million students to achieve their potential, those who often choose us do it because they have all sorts of other commitments alongside studying. So if we move on to the next slide, like I said, the buzzword is flexible because we are really open to everyone, no matter their background or ambitions. So if you choose to study languages, whether you have GCSEs or A-levels or if you're just starting from scratch, you can enroll with us. And you might have lots of different questions. Maybe you're not sure, maybe you're still thinking, you're not sure what you're going to be doing next. You have all sorts of other commitments. And you're asking yourself questions like, what should I do next? I'm not sure if university is for me. Have I left it too late? I don't want to move away from home, or I want to start working. So can't study. So all these questions with us, all these questions and different commitments are possible. You don't have to give anything up, because often people choose the Open University when they have other work commitments, or whether they have caring commitments and things like that. So it's possible to combine all these things. And now I'm going to let my colleague Christina tell you a bit more about our exciting school, the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Maria. Yes, so I'm Christina Pleiners, and I'm a senior lecturer at the Open University, a senior in German. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we are offering also in terms of our degree programs. So we are all from the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics. So some of the university departments are also called school. That's what we are called, the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics. And we are internationally recognized in online language learning and applied linguistics. And we are very proud of that. And we really do have many years of experience in online language learning and teaching. And I think many of you here will remember that 6 years ago, there was a pandemic and all the schools and all the universities suddenly had to introduce online in a bit of a hurry. And that was quite difficult. And many of them did a really good job at really short notice. But I mean, we at the time felt we were really looking back on many years of expertise, which we developed over time and where we've developed some really solid programs of online learning and teaching. You were told earlier, National Extension Colleague founded in '63. The Open University was founded shortly afterwards. Languages came along in the '90s. And I was there in 2008 when, for the first time, we had a fully integrated virtual learning environment for our students where they could study online. And ever since, we've been building on this expertise, and our colleagues are doing research into online language learning and teaching. So the students study online with very carefully devised and structured learning materials. But of course, the online learning environment doesn't just include the materials you work with, but also many tools which allow for interaction with tutors and fellow students. So that is an important part of studying. And Maria mentioned this word, supported distance learning. So students study at a distance, but in a supported way. So there will be a mixture of independent study in your own time, quite flexible, but also live online tutorials and peer and tutor support. So there are tutors. Each tutor is responsible for a group around 20 students. And for each student, the tutor is their first point of call. There will also be live sessions where students interact and speak and chat in the text chat with their tutors. And there are forums where they also interact with each other and with their tutors. So you can study French, German, Spanish, Chinese, and English language studies, either in combination with each other or in combination with other subjects. And on the next slide, you can see a little bit more about the qualifications you can get. So our students, it is possible to study on a module by module basis, but the majority of our students are enrolled in a degree program, and these are the main undergraduate degrees which our languages students are enrolled in. So the BA Honours in Language Studies is a big one, and you can study a combination of 2 languages. So these can be 2 languages like French and German, but they can also be one other language, a language you're learning in combination with English, yeah, and where you learn about English applied linguistics. There are other degrees where you combine language study, again, up to degree level, but you combine it with another subject. So these are, for example, business management, law, or history, and you study each subject equally. Exactly half of your study time is for business management and half of your study time is for languages. And in each of these, you reach the sort of BA standard. And other qualifications are more focused on English, but you can have an element of studying another language as well. And there's also something quite specific to the Open University called the Open Degree, which is a very flexible degree where you can study all sorts of things, which eventually make up a degree. You have to do it in a structured fashion. So we also speak about level 1, 2, 3, but that really is equivalent to at other universities, year 1, year 2, year 3. So you have to do a certain number of courses at each of these levels to combine to a BA or BSc honours degree. And obviously that can then also include languages. You can't study just one language on its own. So we don't offer single honors in a particular language. You would study one language plus another subject. So that could be English applied linguistics or it could be another subject, or it could be a second language you are studying. Okay. So again, on the side, you can see you complete your studies online when and where you want at a pace that suits you. And we also offer sort of other types of qualification. We call them nested qualification that sit below degree level. If you don't want to take your study up to degree level, there are other qualifications you can also get. And also very much to encourage you to actually explore further, you can Google the Open University, then you can find out in detail what exactly you would be studying for each of these degree courses. And you can also find free tasters. And if you check Open Learn, there you can actually also see how our materials work, how they are structured, and there are lots and lots of material there. You can study online, you can study for free, just to get a bit of a taster what it's like. Yeah, next slide, please. And there are lots of opportunities. So yes, the study material is there for you online and you study independently, but we're also very, very keen to promote a student community within our university. So there are lots of opportunities to get involved with others as well. And of course, in language learning, language is about communication. So you're very, very much encouraged to communicate with others. So some examples, what we've run in the past year, for example, a language and culture day, where students studying all the different languages came together for a day to practice their languages and participate in cultural activities for a day, an in-person event, an in-person day. And we've also had a virtual field trip where students have sort of 3 days where they come together online, but they're taken out of their normal module activities a little bit. For example, we're collaborating with partners abroad. We're running sort of lots of tutorials, lots of cultural activities in small groups during those 3 days. And also there is a community forum which developed a lot over the past few years in particular, which is very, very lively, where students interact with each other in a forum and also organize a lot of events. You know, these could be cultural events. These are sometimes study groups where students come together and practice their language in sort of small online rooms. So this is what's happening in terms of building a student community and also meeting others. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here's some more examples. There's a peer mentoring program. We have collaborations with partner institutions abroad, which you can benefit from. And for those studying Chinese, this year there is an opportunity to attend a summer school in China as well. So there are these opportunities, and they may change a little bit each year, but these opportunities are available for our students. And we've got a lovely quote here from our student Tracy. Before I started my course, I thought that distance learning would be a very lonely way to study, but my experience was the complete opposite. My tutors were inspiring. There's a real sense of community and togetherness amongst OU students, so you never feel that you're going through the experience alone. And that's certainly what we always tell everybody. You know, if you study independently, sometimes you feel alone, but actually you are not. There are many, many others you're studying with, and there are many opportunities which you can make use of to engage. I think next slide, and I think I'd be passing on to Lucy, no?
Muted myself again. Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I work in external engagement in the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the student experience and employability and careers. So next slide, please. We thought it'd be best for you to hear from a couple of our students directly. So we've got 2 students here. We have Hope. She came to us originally to do her undergraduate degree, really enjoyed it, and she's now a master's student studying linguistics. And we've also got our student Rob. He graduated just a few weeks ago with a first class honours in language studies, and you're going to hear from him today about his journey and why he chose the Open University.
The Open University has worked brilliantly for me. I feel like it has really helped with my confidence. It's helped me realize that I am able to achieve a degree, and right now I'm studying for my master's. you know, things that didn't feel like it was possible, because obviously everybody follows the very strict route of you go to college and you go to a brick uni, rather than something that is very much online. So it has helped in so many ways. It built my confidence, it's obviously educated me further. I've met some fantastic people through it, some brilliant opportunities, and I can't recommend it enough.
I decided to study full-time, but I also worked alongside it. I was a postman at the time, so I'd work in the morning, get up at 5 a.m. and then go and do my rounds, and then finish around 1:30. I decided to study full-time, but I also worked alongside it. I was a postman at the time, so I'd work in the morning, get up at 5 a.m. and then go and do my rounds, and then finish around 1:30.
Don't worry if it's buffering. Rob's testimonial, his video was talking about how he structured his studies around his work. And so originally he was a postman and he was able to choose his study hours, but he also at the same time chose to study at a full time intensity because he really wanted to achieve his degree in just a few years. And so those options are available. So he would come back from his job as a postman, have a short nap, and then he would study in the afternoon. And it really worked for him. And he talks a little later about where his studies have taken him. He's actually living in Spain now. He's married to a Spanish woman, and he's developing a career teaching Spanish and English. So I'll talk to you a little bit now about where language study could take you. Next slide, please. So we know that employers love linguists. So the Open University engages with employers regularly. We have an annual survey with employers. We know how well respected OU graduates are with employers, and particularly linguists. So we know that linguists have a really attractive skill set for employers, and it doesn't necessarily matter which sector you're going into because they are such brilliant transferable skills. There was a report, a RAND report in 2022, and it estimated in this report that with the UK economy, it would receive an annual £19 billion boost if those language barriers with Arabic, Chinese, French, and Spanish in particular were eliminated. And it really concluded that the UK really does need linguists, and we really do need those linguistic skills and that linguistic mindset that we've been talking to you about. So why do employers really like linguists? Well, have excellent interpersonal skills. Language study really involves a lot of collaboration and teamwork with people from all different backgrounds and different cultures. And that ability to work successfully with others is a really huge success. And it's a really huge asset for companies. Resilience and problem solving skills. So, learning languages opens up your mind, and it's not just opening up your mind to other people and cultures, but it's those different ways of approaching a shared problem and finding an innovative solution. And it's that willingness to be resilient and to make and recover from mistakes. Next slide, please. You will develop really strong communication skills, and linguists understand the nuance, the importance of context, of meaning and tone, and nonverbal communication. And they are skills that are an asset in so many sectors. But you particularly find linguists in media, in journalism, in communications and marketing, and in like law and trade and diplomacy, government and business. And those global and commercial awareness skills. So exposure to other languages and cultures really builds intercultural understanding, which is a really valuable asset for any organization, whether it's a multinational company or whether it's a national company just with a lot of cultures within it. It's really, really good to have employees who can work effectively across lots of different cultures. We've got a quote here from George. So George graduated last year, and we met him at. We have graduation ceremonies all around the UK, and this was at the York graduation ceremony. And George had been in the Merchant Navy. And he, through his kind of experiences in the Merchant Navy, had visited lots of other countries, been exposed to lots of other languages and cultures, and really was intrigued to study languages with the Open University flexibly whilst he was in the Merchant Navy. And he said that having now studied languages, it really helped him see the world through a different lens. And he was now in his dream job in the tech sector. And he said that his employer really wanted him to have language skills for that role that he's now doing in the tech sector. Next slide, please. So the Open University is recognised as one of the top universities for teaching excellence and employability, and has won many awards for the quality of teaching materials and support for students, but also how well the Open University prepares students for their careers. There's an award-winning careers support service. We can connect you with lots of employers, but there's also internships available for during your studies, and you can get lots of support and advice on preparing for interviews, structuring your CVs, planning your next career step, or what sector you might want to go into. And you will find that employability skills are really embedded in the course materials as well. So you'll be getting those career ready skills throughout your studies. And if you are working at the same time, you'll be able to apply those skills in real time. And we know that OU graduates, we repeatedly get told in surveys with employers how well respected OU graduates are. They're seen as very diligent, very hardworking, ability to multitask, and very motivated, and with a lot of self-discipline. Next slide, please. We wanted to finish, I'm hoping this plays. This is just Rob at the graduation ceremony the other week, talking about why he came to study at the OU.
Hi, my name is Rob Kirk, and I study language studies with Spanish and English at the Open University. I hope to use it to go into teaching. It's already taken me to live in Spain and teach English there and do the reverse. And so I just can't wait to put my
I'll give it one more go, but if not, I'll summarize the video.
Hi, my name is Rob
So,
Kirk, and I study language studies with Spanish and English at the Open University. I hope to use it to go into teaching. It's already taken me to live in Spain and teach English there and do the reverse. And so I just can't wait to put my...
I'll summarize what Rob says, because I think these videos are buffering. But Rob didn't know at school what he wanted to do. He never thought university was on the cards for him. He chose the Open University because his dad had actually studied at the Open University and said, just go and give it a go. So he had a job in the daytime as a postman, and then he was able to start studying flexibly in a way that suited him with the Open University. And he's gone on to achieve a first class honours in language studies, something that he never ever thought would be achievable. And it's completely changed his life. He's living in another country now. He's teaching English. He's preparing to become a teacher of Spanish. And it's just taken him on a completely different path and different trajectory than he could have ever imagined. So we had the joy of getting to see him graduate in London at the Barbican ceremony just a few weeks ago. And we could probably get those videos sent out in the newsletter or on our website if you did want to see any of those another time. But how can you find out more? So we've got lots of information on the Open University website. We've got lots of different social media that you can follow us on, and I would really encourage you to visit OpenLearn. So OpenLearn is the free learning platform for the Open University, and actually most of our modules have a short taster on OpenLearn so that you can actually sample course materials. So you can try a whole different range of subjects on there and get a taster for what might be like to study with us. We also have free short courses in languages at various different levels, and other topics like intercultural communication, Chinese, and doing business with China. So all sorts on OpenLearn that you might want to have a look at. And I think that's everything from us.
Thank you so much, and apologies that the videos were buffering, but yes, we'll get those out to everybody. So I'll stop sharing now and we can have our Q&A. Hopefully I don't do anything that stops anything more systematic than just the slides. Good, phew, didn't want to touch anything there. Thank you so much. So as I said earlier, we've taken you through from studying at GCSE or thinking about studying at GCSE and then moving through onto a degree at the Open University. So more of the School of Languages and Applied Linguistics from that school are joining us from the Open University. So thank you so much, everybody. And this is our Q&A session. So a couple of questions came up earlier. I think one that you answered, Christina, which was about studying a separate language, so we don't need to go back to that one. We did have a question about the sort of texts at GCSE and A-level. So if you know the GCSE and A-level specifications, you do study literature. So there's a text there that you will study, and that's a text that's obviously there's from a choice from the specification that we've put forward. But as a textbook, you get an e-book. So we have a partnership with Hodder, and they have an ebook, which is really good, actually. It's a very good ebook, has audio, has lots of things, quite an interactive ebook. And that's a companion to your National Extension College course. So yes, there's lots of resources and material that you can have there. Then we have a question, if I do a free course in Open Uni, do I get a certificate of participation? Can anybody from the School of Languages answer that one?
I could probably answer this one. Yes, you do. So we have badged open courses, and you have quizzes embedded into the course. And then if you pass your quizzes, then you get a participation certificate or a digital badge, so you can download your certificate.
Great,
and I just want to add, for the Open Learn free taster courses, you also get a certificate at the end for attendance. Once you've done, I think, about 70% of what is provided there.
That's lovely. Thank you, Chan. It's really nice to have that little bit of paper to show that you've moved through a course, even if it is one of the ones on Open Learn. And maybe that's to demonstrate to somebody that you're willing to learn, you're willing to put some time in, and maybe then they'll encourage you or support you or sponsor you to move on to the next level. So that's really good to be able to have that bit of paper. Practicing a language through distance learning, really interesting question. Thank you very much, Jocelyn. I think we'll all pick up this because obviously there are limited opportunities from a National Extension College perspective. We're rolling enrolment, so students enroll at different times, so there are different levels in their language learning. It's something that the tutors often put advice in at the forums, so do keep your eye on the forums around opportunities to practice your language. And there'll be advice and guidance from other students as well who have come across the right sort of platforms to help them practice. But you're correct, the practice is a hard part. I don't know whether Christina, Lucy, Chan, or any of the other members of the team have any advice for students who are studying at a distance at any level about how to practice the target language?
I think one thing you can do, which may not be interactive using the Google translation tool, but you could speak using the microphone icon there. And if you speak the Spanish, then when it translates back into English, you could see whether your pronunciation is accurate enough for the machine to recognize that. That's one of the way. Or you could try to find a virtual exchange partner, a student who is learning English, who wants to practice Spanish with you through social media or through even your online forum. Because at Open University, because the whole school students have access to the online forum, sometimes they pair each other up, find the speaking partner.
That's excellent points. I like the idea of using online tools. I know AI is now, obviously it has some sort of downsides, but it does have a lot of tools to help language learning. And I love the idea of just opening up to the forum and saying, we do have a lot of, on a Spanish course, we have a lot of learners who are doing an A-level, but it's their home language. And they're just wanting to gain the A-level through the structure of the course to enable them to have that additional A-level. So I like the idea of just reaching out and seeing if there's a sort of co sort of existing relationship that can support both students with their language learning. Thank you. Okay, and then we've got another question for the Open University. What's the difference between going to the Open University straight after GCSEs versus after A-levels? That's an interesting one, actually. I suppose it partly asks what are the requirements to enter onto one of the language courses. So maybe that's a good starting point for this particular question.
There are no entry requirements to enter any of our language courses. Okay, so we are a so-called no-tariff university, which means that you can start at any level and any time in your life, really. Of course, when you're 12, it's not really probably the best thing to do. But from 16 years on, I think we have quite a few students, and actually, it's also a good way to. By the time you let's say finish your A-levels, you already have some credits if you enroll on a module, a credit-bearing module. So the short answer is anytime.
That's lovely. Thank you, Susanna. So feeling ready to study at a language level, probably understanding the level that you're going to be studying in is quite important, so that you can assess whether you need to do something first, and perhaps Open Learn is a good opportunity to just try one of those, see what level you are at, and then sort of obviously understand whether you need to do a little bit more learning first in that language, or whether you are ready to step into the next level. So I think exploration as much as possible of things like Open Learn, other test sites and other sort of opportunities to practice the language, to understand what level you're learning at, because obviously moving into a degree from any level is hard. There's a lot of learning, a lot of language learning you need to do at that point, and the academic level and the understanding of the language and the concepts that are being put forward. Christina, did you want to add on to that?
I should have mentioned as well when presenting, maybe also relating to that question, can I study just one language? All our languages do start from beginners, but that's not where you have to start. You can slot in later. You can slot in after your A-level. But for example, if you then study two languages, you could do one language where you slot in later, but start the other language from beginners. So all the languages do start from beginner level, if that's your level at the time. And obviously the other thing to consider is sort of the academic readiness for university study.
Yeah, very good, but really flexible. That's lovely to hear. Thank you. So if a student has studied GCSE or A-level beforehand, then they're coming in at a slightly different level on that language, but gives them an opportunity to pick up a second language, a third language maybe. So Maria, did you want to add anything?
Yes, if I can chip in. There is also a self-assessment quiz for students who are thinking about taking up a language with the Open University. And I'm not sure, for example, if they're beginner or intermediate, if they already have some knowledge of this language. So you can check it on our website. I'll put the link in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's really useful. So the team will share that in the open chat as well if you've popped it in there. If you pop it in the private chat, Maria, then Amanda and Karen will be able to put it in the comments chat. If we don't manage to get that before the end of the day, we do send a follow-up email to everybody who booked, so we can send on further resources and links if you share them with us. So you'll get those dropping into your inbox. So just a final question from me, I don't have a second language, so I'm just going to do that. But I'm really interested, I'm sure our listeners and those viewing would be, and what sparked your passion for languages? I'd love to hear one of those reasons, and then just sort of thinking about whether that's affected your understanding of language acquisition, particularly in a digital setting. but you could just answer the first bit if you want.
Maybe I can start.
Yes, thank you.
This is a huge question, so I guess everybody has different reasons. I was surrounded by two languages when I grew up, and from quite young age, I was quite intrigued. How is it possible that the same word is pronounced in different ways depending on who says them? And and I think that was the first kind of push. And then I just was really interested in whether we can express everything in every language, and if so, how, or what are the differences between languages. And this kind of pushed me to study a lot of linguistics, and I still find many interesting questions in this regard. So yeah,
that's lovely. Thank you, Susanna.
From me, I think.
Personally. I love that aspect of being curious about two words having this same meanings, different languages. That's a really nice way into exploring a second language. Anybody else wants to share what inspired them to move forward with language learning?
I don't mind giving an example. I did my undergraduate degree in French and German, but my dad worked for Unilever, who oversaw a huge number of products that you get in lots of different countries. And I found it so fascinating that you would need a completely different approach to market and launch the same product in different countries and in different cultures. And so I kind of grew up amongst languages and cultures in a way, and was so intrigued by those differences in the sort of the intercultural context of how one product might need to be marketed in a more romantic way and the other in a more practical way. One you'd emphasize the health benefits, and the other you might emphasize the price. And I just found, and I still do, I went on to do a master's in intercultural communication, because I find that the way cultures relate to one another and mix and misunderstand one another is just so fascinating, and it's so relevant in everything you do.
That's lovely, and just still being open to that, it sounds like, Lucy, so that's really lovely. Final one from anybody who wants to share?
Well, I'm happy to say something about the second part of the question.
Thank you.
Online language learning. I mean, I grew up entirely monolingually and came into language learning. Obviously, everything was entirely in person and very exciting to learn a language and also be in other countries and speak it. But since coming to online language learning, it's opened new perspectives as well. No, I mean, first of all, that we can now actually bring other countries into people's living rooms online, so we have access to these other cultures, but also being in online classrooms, where we teach speaking to each other, but also using the text chat at the same time. And so much of our communication these days is online anyway, in real life. So it's a new mix of the spoken language and also writing, and it's become more democratic in a way. Now that we're in a classroom, everybody can put something in a text chat. You don't always have to wait for one person to finish speaking, then the next person. And we can mix also these sort of oral and the written modes in a different way. So I must say, I do find that exciting as well.
Really interesting. Thank you. And I think a fantastic note to end on. We're just up to time. Thank you so much for all of you putting aside some of your day to talk to current perspective and those who are supporting people exploring what language learning looks like. This video will be available on the NEC YouTube channel, but also the link can be shared by the Open University. So it's an open link, so anybody can come back to this and have a look through the presentation and explore the love of languages and where the language learning could take you. Thank you again for all my colleagues from the Open University and from everybody who's joined us today, and have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.